Welcome back to the Mountain View Post Radio Hour,
the neighborhood radio show all about Mountain View, the neighborhood. My name is Kirsten Swan. I'm your co-host.
And I am Kate Davis, the other co-host.
And we're here in the studio with Jasmine Smith, president of the Mountain View Community Council.
Hello.
And also an entrepreneur, businesswoman, does a million other things, and that's kind of also what we're here to talk about today. Superwoman.
I like
yes.
that. Superwoman, yes.
Speaking of superhero movies, so we were just talking about the community council earlier today, but moving on, there's a program right now going on. It's called Set Up Shop. I believe that the first class was February 27th, and it meets on Tuesday evenings, and it's kind of organized by the Anchorage Community Land Trust, a nonprofit that does a lot of work in Mountain View, and the goal is to kind of train and help develop entrepreneurs to grow their businesses.
Definitely.
Is that?
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing program. I mean, backstory on it, in September, the Land Trust, some folks from AEDC and the Business Boutique, which is my company, we went down to Minneapolis and did a tour of the Neighborhood Development Center, which was totally awesome. And down there, they have some programs that have been successful for over 20 years where they have a concept called Build from Within, which is totally aligned with what we believe here, that if you empower the neighborhoods and you train people in the neighborhoods, they're more successful in terms of entrepreneurship. So they decided to bring the program back, and conversations were had about what the program would look like. So it's kind of cool. It's like a 4-part program. Mm-hmm. It's basically training entrepreneurs, giving technical assistance to entrepreneurs, providing funding options for entrepreneurs that's non-bank, and then assisting them with finding spaces for their business. And it's kind of cool because our facilitation approach is totally relaxed, easy to talk to neighborhood. So I don't wear a suit or tie or none of that kind of stuff. We try to be approachable and pretty basic and fun with how we train.
So people feel like they can really connect and get the most out of it and not feel alienated necessarily.
Yeah, we have a really fun group. People can, we joke, we talk about business, we use real life stories and examples. You want people to feel like they're at home.
And
that's really interesting because now they don't feel intimidated.
Right.
So
that's exactly what we don't want them to feel, is intimidated.
And so your role in this, Jasmine, is you are kind of instructing and leading this first group.
Yes, so the Business Boutique, we do all the training. And then once they graduate from 12 weeks of training, we meet once a week for 2 hours on Tuesdays. Once they graduate, then they go on to phase 2 and phase 3, working with ACLT with potential lending and finding an office space or storefront for their business. So we do the ground zero in the classroom portion with them.
You can go.
Jasmine, I know you do so much work with entrepreneurs and businesses kind of all shapes and sizes in Anchorage. Last Saturday after the radio show, I was down at the Northway Mall, and you were part of or helping out with a youth employment fair that the graduation assistance program was putting on, and that looked great. And you were saying that a local business hired a few kids that came through.
Definitely, yeah.
You had some successes. But in your experience, what are some of the challenges facing up-and-coming entrepreneurs here in Anchorage, especially in our neighborhood, especially in Mountain View, and also some of the opportunities that people might not know about?
I would say one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs in our neighborhood is just access to the training and understanding the training. I think that sometimes Anchorage has a lot of resources for entrepreneurs, but the facilitation style is for the same demographic. And sometimes if you're somebody who has a good idea and you have good intentions, but you're starting from square one, you're not comfortable enough to say, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never written a business plan. I don't even know what none of this means. So sometimes they get kind of shuffled along in the process, and you feel like they should know right away and they should know faster. And if they don't get it, you kind of dismiss them and discredit them. So in our neighborhood, we've had to do 2 things. We've had to, number 1, change how we train and who does the trainings. And number 2, we had to take a step back and basically do the where are you at and what do you need and what do you think is your goal and what's important to you. Because again, sometimes it's like a cookie cutter, one size fits all. Mm-hmm. I think the other thing with Mountain View is people sometimes see us as it's poor Mountain View, sad things are happening there. And we're not disempowered. So it's re-empowering our neighborhood and the people who live there, so we know that we're not tragedies, I guess, victims. We kind of get that sometimes. People want to come in and save us. We're well, we're not
And you think maybe we had it all along. And
Yeah, we're like, we had it. We just needed people to pull it out and let us know we can do it. But like our neighborhood kind of gets like, don't worry, Mountain View, I'll save you kind of thing. So
to go along with that, there, like, when you go into Mountain View, you know, where like Wendy's and Taco Bell and that like phone or something building
right
is,
there coming off the highway.
right there where there's a welcome to Mountain View sign. There used to be like from 1997, I don't know, it was like the most diverse
neighborhood of the year 1989.
Yeah.
And they changed it to the most diverse neighborhood in the USA in 2018, which I thought was really cool.
Right.
yeah, I mean, we definitely are. I mean, CNN did a study, and like I think 2 or 3 of the schools in our neighborhood are, you know, was in the most diverse list. Like I think Clark was in that list.
I go to there.
Yeah, like I think it was East. I can't remember, but yeah, we definitely are a really diverse neighborhood. So our goal is to focus on what makes us great and what makes us unique versus just, you know, tragedies all the time or sad things happening.
I feel like a lot of neighborhoods are close together. Like one house is closed off to a lot of people. It's kind of not together, I feel like.
And so we could do more to be together.
Yeah.
And it definitely seems like developing and a way to develop neighborhood businesses brings people closer together. I know you, Kate, have experience at the Saturday
then
market.
People go together because
Thursday market.
then they're excited to go to that place to do whatever the business is doing. And it just kind of helps the neighborhood to be together. And if we get since this neighborhood's together, it kind of helps other neighborhoods see what they're missing out on.
It's a great example of kind of what can be done when people come together. And
yeah,
Jasmine, speaking of, you know, you mentioned diversity in our neighborhood, and we have people. I know my neighbors just on my street alone come from, you know, countries all over the world, and just talking with anyone for even just a few minutes, you get, you know that everybody truly comes from every walk of life. Do you see that manifested at all in the businesses and like the entrepreneurial ideas that are coming forward and that you're working with through the business boutique? And how are people? Yeah, does this manifest itself on the commercial side, I guess, as much as it could? Or
one of the first questions I asked in the training on the first night was, why do you want to start a business and what motivates you? And I explained to them, you know, starting a business isn't easy and it isn't for everybody. You're going to have amazing months and you're going to have months where you really struggle. But if you know why you want to do it and what's going to motivate you to keep going, you're going to follow through. And the answers that they gave was pretty diverse. I mean, just the reasons for why they wanted to start a business. Some of it was financial based. Some of it was like, oh, I want to make my mom proud, or my grandma to be proud, or my family to be happy. And in their backstories, you can really tell that is from their culture, where they're from, and their family. So like the reasons for starting a business were extremely diverse. And the types of business that they wanted to start was really diverse too. It does kind of play on the different stories of what makes Mountain View. But I think asking anybody like why you want to start a business and the motivation is really telling. And it was pretty interesting to just see what they came up with and the backstory as to why they wanted to do that kind of business.
What types of things are necessary, do you think, to really develop Mountain View's commercial center further in terms of, for example, I recently had the opportunity to talk with some of the people involved with the Spenard Chamber of Commerce and talk about some of the work that they're doing over there to kind of make the area really walkable and encourage people going around from like local business to local business and coming from the neighborhoods. And I know in our neighborhood it is pretty walkable, and we have the farmers market now on Thursdays in the summer, not Saturdays, as Kate reminds me. And people are able to come from the neighborhood and maybe buy things from local growers there. In your mind, what would need to happen to kind of further develop that neighborhood business?
I think first and foremost, the number one thing that would need to happen is empowerment from within. A lot of times, again, in our neighborhood, it feels like somebody has to come in from the outside to help us or tell us what to do and kind of push us, motivate us, and guide us. But I think the first thing we have to do is have that discussion, take ownership of why we want to do this, and to kind of delegate out who can do what and who can help with what. Because I think that's what makes us unique, and that's what kind of speaks to our neighborhood, what we're all about. But you know, the number one thing is definitely our ability to say we can do this. And then I think the second thing that's going to really help us have a defined business community is, again, like, you know, like she said, communicating and actually having times and opportunities where we all come together and we actually talk and we see each other and say, hey, how's it going? You know, I know ACLT for a while used to host business conversations in the neighborhood. I think it'd be awesome if we start doing that again. So, you know, so just opportunities to engage so we know that we're all on the same page, and then empowering each other to say we can do it, and taking those first steps to like unify and define our business community in the neighborhood.
And it gives people something to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly.
While they're bored or
And Kate, last week I know we were talking a lot about your business and the lemonade stand that you had at the Saturday market. So you've done some work too to build your business and develop it as a middle schooler, as a kid who lives in the neighborhood and is really active and has all these ideas for stuff you want to do. What are your thoughts on business development? What would you maybe want to ask Jasmine about?
I wouldn't want to ask her, like, I would ask her, like, how would someone go about maybe trying to, like, get a business partner, but they might not want to, like, be there when the business is happening? I don't know.
So maybe if you, that's a good
mentor?
question. Yeah, maybe you need someone to help you take your business to the next level, especially if you're a student. That's a great question.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome idea. I mean, yeah, getting a mentor, that's something that we encourage from all types of businesses. If you wanted to get a mentor, I would encourage you to look at other successful businesses in the neighborhood. You can definitely give us a call, and depending on what your idea is, we can kind of hook you up with somebody, or you can shadow me. I know that you can also go to Anchorage Community Land Trust, and they have a really good list of entrepreneurs you can actually shadow. But I would say shadowing somebody who has a successful business is going to be your best bet, and it's most meaningful because they actually have proof that whatever they tell you works.
Yeah.
So ask them to like get you a mentor that's actually in business. So you got to say, I want a mentor that's in business and doing good, because that's who you want to follow.
Because that's who I know can succeed.
Exactly. So yes, ask them if you do that. And we have some amazing business owners in our neighborhood who's been there, you know, for years. Like, and there's so many names. Like, yeah, Ava's a good one.
Me and Ava are.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I'm just trying to think who I call. You know, who first? They all like there's some that are like fixtures in the neighborhood that've been around for years.
Yeah, there's some
Like
people you know, like, have been in the neighborhood and succeeded in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and they're still there. Like Angela and her like McKinley Services. She had like 2 buildings across the street from each other, and you know, personal care services. So like, basically, there's just so many people to pick from. It's amazing.
And West Berlin and Houlihan's, and because West Berlin is still a relatively new restaurant.
Yeah, but people don't even know West Berlin is owned by the same family that owns Houlihan's.
Right.
Wait,
so,
what?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so
I
you just
didn't
would never
know
know
that.
that. They're like, but it's German food and Hawaiian food, but they own both, so it's just cool. Like,
That's
there's
really cool.
a lot of mentors to tap into there that
And
are
there's
kind of
another
unspoken.
Houlihan somewhere.
They own that one too, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So you know, it's a really established business, and if you wanted to kind of learn something about that world, that might be a good place to go to ask for some advice.
They're really involved in the community. The like people who work at West Berlin,
Definitely,
like with that fundraiser for the land trust, for the garden. Yeah.
Right. That was it was a little bit ago now, but did you go to that?
I was one of the speakers there.
So what was that like?
It was really fun because everybody knew me. And some I didn't know, but a lot knew me. There was one person who was like, you gotta volunteer at my place too. I was like, invite me whenever.
It's great. I think that there are spaces in the neighborhood that are available to do those kind of events for people to come together and
Yeah, that I feel like if they go to events that are like fundraisers, people who are trying to start businesses, if they start making friends with important people, they might be able to like maybe ask them for advice and things like that. I'm sure that anybody that knows me that has a business would be open to giving me advice.
Right, exactly.
Definitely. Yeah. I think a lot of the owners, you'll find that even though like we work a lot all the time, that's part of ownership, we definitely have some time to always mentor youth, so that's never like, I'm 1,000% confident if you go to any owner in our neighborhood and say, do you have a little bit of time to talk with me, they would absolutely love that, and they would put some time to help you.